So this amp is just insane. It's like an analog Kemper in a way. Think about it like that, it's almost a bargain. Almost. It's still very expensive. Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. So I did an unboxing and first impressions of Hughes Kettner amps a few weeks back. At the time, I was absolutely blown away by the TriAmp Mark III. And I mean, that really hasn't changed. This is one of the most ridiculously, gloriously over-the-top amps I have ever played. And it makes me genuinely sad not everyone has had the chance to play through a Hughes Kettner TriAmp Mark III. This amp is awesome. Let's take a closer look. Alright, so you may be looking at this thing and thinking what I mean by glorious and over the top is that so much of this amp lights up.
How's this, Goodwin?
It's beautiful!
Yes, that is obviously very cool. No, that ain't it. But yeah, let's talk about the looks first because it is the most obvious thing that stands out, even to non-guitar players. And let me tell you, that is not an easy feat. Making a piece of guitar gear look eye-catching to normies is hard, especially when it comes to amps. So the TriAmp Mark III is built at Hughes Kettner's St. Wendel facility in Germany. It's very well built, it feels like an absolute tank. Then the entire plexiglass front plate lights up using side-mounted LEDs and it looks amazing. Especially when the tubes have warmed up and all 15 tubes are glowing orange as well. Yeah, especially in a poorly lit room, it is genuinely spectacular. Now, one thing is, it's got a ton of knobbage. That's a really weird way of saying it. I'm saying it's got a ton of knobs. 33 actually, and an additional 13 push buttons on the front plate alone. And when the amp lights up and all of them are illuminated, it does look incredibly intimidating, but it's actually very intuitively laid out. Once you calm down and take a look at it, everything makes sense. So the reason it has so many knobs is that this is a 6-channel amplifier with no shared EQs. They're split into amps 1, 2, and 3. Amp 1 is your clean tones, amp 2 is your crunchy tones, and amp 3 is all the gain you could possibly want and more tones. And each channel is different, it's got its own separate voice, and it's also got its own independent volume, gain, and EQ controls. So immediately, that makes things a lot less scary because these are just separate controls for separate channels. The 3 exceptions to that are the 3 knobs on the left, which are master volume, master presence, and master resonance controls, right? So actually very simple, just a huge amount of individual customization for every channel. For the buttons, there's one to select each channel, then a button for boost, and actually the boost is individually voiced for each channel, so it's not a generic uniform boost across the amp. It's customized specifically for that channel, which is insane. Then buttons for the noise gate and the effects loop, and you can set the sensitivity of the noise gate and the volume for the effects loop using dials on the back. You can even set the effects loop to be line or rack level, something I badly wish the Jet City 100 HDM had, for example. I mean, there's literally just every single setting you could possibly want, and we'll talk more about the back panel in a second because there's a lot there as well. Back to the front though, there are 3 buttons to select or deselect each of the 3 pairs of power tubes. Yeah, that's right, even the power section is customizable on the fly. So it comes stock with 4 6L6s and 2 EL34s. So if you're going for the American sound, you can select the 6L6s, the British sound, you can select the EL34s, or if you're like me, have them all on for a blend of the two. I mean, in theory, you can really personalize the sound you get, especially since you're not limited to just this tube configuration. You can swap out the 2 EL34s and have 6 6L6s, or swap out all the 6L6s for all EL34s if you want, but the TriAmp also takes just about any power tube you could possibly want. Returning to the back plate, you've got this section here, the tube safety control. Now what this does, first of all, is monitor your tubes and tell you if any of them have died and need replacing, but it also does automatic biasing, which extends the life of the tubes and allows you to fully customize that power section. So you don't need to be a professional amp tech or anything, you don't need to do any adjustments at all. Just turn the amp off, throw in a pair of whatever tubes you want, KT88s, 6550s, 7581s, those are just a couple examples, that accepts way more, and bang, you've got a new sound. The sheer customizability of the power section, especially on the fly, is just an amazing, unique feature. Continuing with the backplate, there's the Redbox AE system, which is Hughes Kettner's direct recording solution. So I remember hearing about Redbox way before I'd heard about 2Notes, and I thought that was so cool, recording a tube amp right into a DAW or pushing it directly to front of house without needing a cab or a mic setup. Now, I'll be honest, it's cool that it's still here, but this amp launched at NAMM 2015, which doesn't sound too far in the past, and in that time, impulse response technology and software have come such a long way in terms of quality and customization. With only a couple of settings and no way to load in your own custom speaker or cabinet configurations, it's the only part of the amp that feels somewhat dated. Realistically, considering what this amp is, that was never going to be the make or break point of the TriAmp, but I thought it was worth pointing out anyways. Moving on to the MIDI ports, now this is a very important feature for an amp like this. 6 channels, a stupid number of customizations and switchable settings, as we've just gone through. It would be kind of annoying if you couldn't save presets and just switch to any of them on the fly with a foot switch. And thankfully, Hughes Kettner thought so too. So they've included this mammoth foot switch, which comes in its own pretty sizable box. And you can use this to obviously switch between the 6 channels, but also recall MIDI presets. And I mean, I can't say it enough. On an amp like this, that is so important. Like, what would be the point of so many features if you weren't able to actually use them and access your personal settings and fine tunings on the fly? Right, so at this point, I've basically talked your head off about everything this amp has to offer in terms of features, and it's a lot. It is the most comprehensive feature set I've ever had on any of my amps. But the main purpose of a tube amplifier is to generate some kick-ass tones, and the TriAmp Mark III is great at that, so let's hear what it sounds like. I'm gonna be using a couple guitars, running through some of my favorite settings on each channel that I've found so far. It's probably gonna be a sizable percentage of this video, so let's just get into it. Yeah, so this amp is just insane. Is it the budget deal of the year? No, absolutely not. Even used, I think the cheapest I've seen it go for is about $3 grand, but that's besides the point. This is like the Bugatti Veyron of amps. It is very expensive. It is completely unnecessary for most situations, but my God, will you have a ton of fun with it. Actually, I take that back. This is better than a Bugatti. I mean, as far as I know, Bugattis don't have 6 channels. They don't even have 1. This, you can use for any gig. I mean, it's just insane, right? You've got a dual rec tone, you've got 6505, plexi, Vox, and Fender cleans all in one amp. It's like an analog Kemper in a way. Think about it like that, it's almost a bargain. Almost. It's still very expensive. But it's not just tick boxes, like every channel genuinely sounds amazing. Or at least I think so. Like each channel is voiced so well. 3A is my personal favorite. It sounds exactly like how I want my dual rec to sound, without needing an additional separate tube screamer. And then each channel has that distinct high fidelity quality to it, which is fairly unique to Hughes and Kettner amps. Like everything is crystal clear. I mean, this has been my dream amp for so long. I have wanted one of these forever. And I've been lucky enough that Hughes and Kettner saw enough value in my channel to let me keep this one. And it's amazing. You know, sometimes you hype yourself up for something for so long that when you finally get it, it's kind of a disappointment. But no, not with this one. This is so easy to track and write with. It's inspiring, the riffs just flow out. The one issue I've had so far is that when one of the preamp tubes dies, it is a pain in the ass to figure out which one it is because there are so f***ing many. Other than that, yeah, this is a forever amp. Massive thanks to you guys for watching my videos and making this possible because, yeah, just so happy with it. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is obviously the flagship of the current lineup, and yes, it is a little over the top. Don't worry, I've also got videos coming of some of Hughes and Kettner's more affordable, but arguably even more feature-packed lunchbox heads. They're amazing too. Make sure you're subscribed and you've got notifications turned on so you don't miss that. And I think that'll do it for this video. I'm just really happy with my new amp. Social media, merch, and Discord server links are in the description. As always, thanks so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I'll see you for the next video.